Yeah, hi, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Prerna. Good afternoon.
Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm live with Mr. Siddharth. He's director of Delhi Public School, Nasik, Varanasi, and Lava Nagpur. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here, Prerna. Thank you.
So, should we start with a question, sir?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Sir, before we begin with, I would like to ask about online education, like how in Delhi Public School, I mean, if we talk about your branches, how are we taking care of online education in your branches? Also, how to make it interactive, because I think that's very, very important, keeping virtual classes in mind.
Yes, so with the online education, one thing that we realized in the early days of the pandemic was
Right.
कि जो फिजिकल स्कूल में चल रहा था वो
True.
ऑनलाइन में नहीं चलेगा. So that is something that we realized very early on, and we made sure, and we are still doing it, that the learning, that the teacher moved from the role of a teacher to the
Right.
role of a learner. So every teacher started learning on a day-to-day basis, right?
Right.
If you see, for me also, I also made sure that I also adorned the learner's hat, and I also did a lot of learning myself. And I made that shift as well, that, just so that it's very evident and we develop a culture around it. I made that shift for myself, that
Right.
from the position of the director, I also moved to a chief learner's position. So that was very intentional to make that shift in the culture of the school.
Right.
So yes, so the learning was one thing that was a big shift. All of us started learning. We were doing it earlier, but the pandemic really pushed us into that zone where we had to go back to the drawing board and really reinvent ourselves. So that is one thing that happened. There
Right.
are various initiatives that we are running right now through which the teachers are regularly learning on a day-to-day basis. We make
Okay.
sure that the students are not just passive receivers, like
Right.
they're not just getting lectured to, because
Yeah.
there's been so much of research that if you just get lectured to, then you just absorb maybe 5% of what is being taught.
Right.
So
Right.
we make sure that throughout the classes, uh, every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, there are spaces, and the lessons are planned such that children are hands on. They're doing something or the other. There are various tools now in the online space, like there's Edpuzzle, Nearpod, Kahoot,
Right.
Mentimeter. So there's plethora of stuff, right? If I start naming them, I think it will take half an hour just to name. So there's so much stuff, but it's just that as a teacher, as a school, we need to go and explore them and experiment with them. So we've been doing
Right.
that. We've created small little tech communities. So we've
Right.
created small little technology communities within our teaching groups. And the role of these technology communities is to explore a lot of these tools and bring it back to everybody else. So yeah, so that's a shift that we've made in our schools over the
सर
pandemic.
इफ आई टॉक अबाउट टीचर्स स्पेशली बिकॉज टीचर्स के लिए बहुत बड़ा स्विच हुआ फ्रॉम लाइव क्लासेस लाइक जो क्लासरूम का टीचिंग रहता था टू वर्चुअल क्लासेस सो आर वी लाइक इन डीपीएस आर वी टेकिंग केयर ऑफ सम strategy or maybe some techniques which are being taught to teachers first before delivering the lecture online.
Yes, so one of the firstly I would say, and I have said it quite a lot of times in various forums, but it's not still enough. The teaching community, especially the teachers that we have, I
Yeah.
think they're the most resilient people. I haven't seen a more resilient species than teachers, because overnight they accustom themselves with the change that
Right.
happened.
Right.
They unlearned, they relearned, and they were on the job, and they were taking care of the children.
Right.
Teachers did much more, what we had expected. Okay, that we will deliver this. Our teachers delivered much more than what we had actually thought, okay, that we are going to do
True.
this. So
True.
what we do, like I shared, Prerna, what we are doing a lot of initiatives. There's one initiative which is called as Champions of Change Fridays. So
Okay.
it's an initiative that we run within our three schools, and every alternate Fridays there's this initiative that runs, and whatever innovative stuff is happening within our schools, we
Right.
handpick that stuff and that is
Okay.
showcased to everybody else. So we have a bunch of 450 460 teachers, so
Okay.
everybody is on that forum, and everybody is aware of the innovation that is happening within our organization, right?
Okay.
So then people get motivated that, okay, we need to, we can also do something like this in our classrooms. Another thing that I have come to notice is one of the biggest ways in which people learn, and especially teachers and adults
Right.
learn, is through communities. A lot
True.
of
Right.
times we don't learn when something is taught, right? So it's more when, okay, ye problem hai, and then let's, okay, sit together, let's all of us sit together, brainstorm, and then come to a solution, right? So
Right.
we
Right.
form these small little communities which meets regularly on an ongoing basis, and they look at problems of practice. उनके classroom में क्या problem चल रही है? They look at that and look at solutions of that. No one is telling them, okay, that this is the solution, go and implement it. The thought process is that they are finding their own solutions because they're the best judge, right?
Right.
So it's just that as school leaders, as organizations, we have to create that space for them, that they are able to, you know, devote that time and brainstorm and come to solutions. So I think these are a couple of things that we've been doing regularly.
Sir, what do you have to say to students who have just passed their class 12th?
I think to the students who've just passed class 12th, I think it was the most phenomenal year that they had witnessed. I'm a positive person, and I am always looking at the positive side of things, right?
Right.
So, one can look at it that, it was the COVID batch and they did not do anything. But I would say that the kind of learning that happened for them, it would
Right.
have never happened for any other batch before, right? So
True.
it's really important that view that all of the students view it as a challenge. I was on a webinar the other day, and I there was a really nice example that was given. Is if you view, if you're a football player and if you're shooting at a goal, and if there's no goalie after 4 or 5 attempts, you will lose interest, right? But if there's a
Right.
goalie and you find a challenge, then you want to go past the goalie. Sometimes you will go, sometimes you will not go, and you'll find it challenging, right? So I think let's view the situation as a challenge
Yeah.
and look to accomplish it, because only when we accomplish challenges, then we know that we are made for bigger things. If we are only doing mediocre stuff, then we are only becoming mediocre. So yes, I
So
think let's
true.
view this as challenge.
So true this is. So sir, let's say like जब पैंडेमिक खत्म हो जाता है उसके बाद जो ये बच्चों का फ्यूचर को लेकर के पोस्ट कोविड जो सिनेरियो रहेगा, if we talk about education, what are your views on this?
So, are you talking about the college? How will the colleges look
Yes, I'm
like?
talking up. Yes, yes, I'm talking about higher studies.
Yes, I think the world has changed. I
Right,
wouldn't say would have changed, it's already changed, right?
right,
The pandemic, it was changing, education was changing. The pandemic maybe pushed it. In 1 year, we traveled 10 years, right? So
yes,
the pandemic pushed us 10 years further. And the world has changed overnight. Education in college and in school would not look the same way that you would have seen in the movies or you've thought about it. It will be completely different. There'll be a
right,
lot of hybrid sort of learning, जिसमें कि there'll be a lot of physical space work, there'll be a lot of online work, there'll be a lot of a self-directed learning. There'll be a lot of learning जिसमें कि children are masters of their own learning. They are responsible for their own learning. So yes, so
right.
these will be some big differentiators now. And I can see that happening. I'm like, I regularly interact with a lot of people from universities, and I can see that there's a big shift in that mindset.
सर अगर हम क्लास 10th के स्टूडेंट्स की बात करें तो व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स व्हिच आर बीइंग केप्ट इन माइंड, आई मीन स्पेशली आई मीन योर मैसेज टू द स्टूडेंट टू कीप इन माइंड बिफोर दे डिसाइड विच स्ट्रीम टू ज्वाइन, बिकॉज आई थिंक ये बहुत ही 9th से ही स्टूडेंट्स में एक प्रेशर हो जाता है कि 10th के बाद स्ट्रीम्स कौन सा लेना है.
Right, right. And see what this is a big question, but unfortunately, what's happened, no, I've seen in the country that we are in, what happens is as students and as parents, we choose a stream for our child or we for ourselves by not knowing what we like, but by knowing what my friend likes.
True.
And because my friend is taking science, so okay, let us also take science. You know, that is
Right,
what we do right now. I
right,
think that is very, very important that we get out of that. Firstly, we
right,
should get out of that, right? So I think that is very, very important. It's really important that we understand that, okay, do I like maths? Do I like science? Do I like social studies? If I like social studies, then I think arts might be the best way forward.
right,
What do I like? You know, a lot of times we are thinking too much in advance. At grade 10th, a lot of times we are thinking that, okay, what do we want to be in life? If as a child you know what you want to be in life, great, brilliant. You can choose your stream accordingly. But a lot of time, like for me, and I think for many children, at grade 10th, we don't know what do we want to be in life, right? So it's
right,
really
right,
important that if we don't have that bigger picture, we should have a short-term picture by just asking ourselves this question: that which is the subject that is of my interest? Do I like English? Do I like social studies? Does science interest me? Is maths my cup of tea? And is it the place where I want to be? And I think these sort of questions will really direct us where we want to go, which is the stream that we want to take up.
right. So here I have a question. I see in a lot of schools there are academic counselors. So, and I think this has become a very latest trend also in almost all schools. I see a psychological counselor and an academic counselor. So how do you see, like if we keep in point academic counselor का role, so you think that it really helps students in terms of counseling, या अभी भी parents का influence या let's say friends का influence या जो एक सोशल इन्फ्लुएंस होता है वो अभी भी काफी ज्यादा रोल प्ले करता है.
Currently, I think, especially if I talk about the tier two cities where I am, the schools that I run are all in tier two cities.
राइट.
If I talk about these tier two cities, I would say that यहाँ पे still we have a big blockage ki what my friend is taking, and because he's a high scorer, I would replicate him, right? Instead of identifying what I want to do, I would replicate him. And your next question, second question about what is the role of counselors? I think the role of the counselors is nothing but to allow the child to think and find कि कौन सा subject उसके liking का है. So the role of the
बिल्कुल.
counselor is to ask those appropriate questions. The role of the
राइट.
counselor is to allow the child to reflect and think. I think this is one practice that is majorly lacking in many of the schools, especially in India, is we do not use the power of self-reflection. We do not use the power of asking, when there's something done, okay, they did good in maths, maths ke exam mein acha kiya, so we never tell the children, okay, beta, sit back and just pen down 3 points. Why did you do good in this test? Then the child will realize that I put in so many hours. I went through each problem. I tried different methods. So this is very, very important that we need to ask these questions. Which is the subject do you like? Why do you like them? What is it that really, interests you in this particular subject? Where do you
राइट.
think subject will apply in your real life going further? So I think these sort of questions are really, really important to ask, because only then the children will put on the thinking hats. We
राइट.
a lot of times as a society we outsource the role of thinking. That's why we have so many gurus and so many we've outsourced our roles of thinking. We don't want to think as individuals. So I think so
True.
these questions are really important.
Right. Sir, what's your view on, the quality of education? Because, I think ये जो 12th का या 10th का जो एक wholesale promotion का जो 2 साल से एक scenario है, so you think that will it affect the psyche as a student?
Uh, so, about the okay. So you've asked a couple of questions within. So, about the testings that you talk about, I'm not a big fan of the 10th board and the 12th board exams, but yes, they
Right.
are there in the system, and all of us have to abide by it. So the CBSE has also realized now that the high stake testing will not work in such a scenario.
Right.
And this year, what they've come up with, they've shared with schools that, instead of having these one exam at end of the year, the exam will be broken to 5 different exams throughout the year.
Right.
There'll
Right.
be a couple of exams that will be shared by CBSE, and there will be a lot of exams that will be, the school internally will share those exams. So if say 1 or 2 exams does not happen because of the pandemic, the others would have happened and the school can assess. But the good schools have already, not relied on the board exams. We have had a lot of
Okay.
formative exams going throughout the year, right? So that has also helped us to make the results this year and last year, especially this year because CBSE had given the schools those sort of roles this year to make the
Right.
results.
Right. सर आई मीन नाउ द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को लेकर के बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, बहुत सारी इंफॉर्मेशन है जो कि ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है, एंड टू मेनी थिंग्स आर कमिंग अप विथ न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी. सो बिफोर आई आस्क मोर क्वेश्चंस ऑन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, व्हाट डू यू हैव टू से फॉर एनईपी?
I think it's a brilliant document. I think the NEP is something where education was already moving in India, especially in the top private schools, right? Education
राइट.
was
राइट.
already moving towards that direction.
या.
But us as educators always felt that how will everybody accept it? How will people accept it? But the
राइट.
NEP gives us a lot of leverage that okay, now people will accept this because now NEP is a tool that we have to explain
राइट.
it to everybody, right? So what NEP does is clearly specifies that there is a shift from rote learning. अगर बहुत लेमैन टर्म्स में बोलूं, जो हम रट करके एग्जाम देते थे, तो वहां से शिफ्ट है. एनईपी बोल रहा है कि स्कूल्स में हमें अपने बच्चों को सोचने पे मजबूर करना है. The kind of
बिल्कुल.
questions that we ask, the kind of environment that we create in the school, we need
राइट.
to make sure that the children are thinking. That is a big shift that NEP is talking about. NEP
ट्रू.
is talking about कि हमें बच्चों को आंसर्स को स्पून फीड नहीं करना है. हमें
या.
बच्चों को ऐसा बनाना है कि वो अपने आंसर्स खुद लिख पाए. Right?
बिल्कुल.
NEP is talking about vocationalization. NEP is talking about experiential learning. So there's a lot of these things that NEP talks about, which is really, really good,
राइट.
which a lot of progressive schools were doing, but they were doing because a lot of things were coming from the West, जो अच्छी educational countries हैं like Finland, and यहाँ से हम लोग लेकर के आ रहे थे, and we were trying, implementing a lot of things in our schools. But now with the
राइट.
NEP, there's a document that says that yes, this is great, and now there's a lot of acceptance with everybody as well,
राइट.
with
राइट.
all that was happening.
राइट. सर, एनईपी में बहुत ज्यादा एम्फेसिस है जो स्किल डेवलपमेंट एंड जैसे आपने बताया वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग पे दिया गया है. सो हाउ डू यू सी, इफ वी टॉक अबाउट इन एजुकेशन द रोल ऑफ स्किल डेवलपमेंट, बिकॉज इट्स अ वेरी न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट, नो डाउट दैट प्रैक्टिकल इंफॉर्मेशन इज वेरी वेरी प्रैक्टिकल लर्निंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो व्हाट डू यू हैव टू से ऑन दिस?
So I think it's a brilliant way of giving a child a taste of how a life might be going further for him. So I'll share.